So what was your question? An update. We're we're gonna go over each one. So this is load. You, you looked at you kind of went ahead without going ahead. So here is where we're going to be describing how to write that function. That's why you look ahead. And we'll talk about. So reading data from a file. Oh, let's see. At this point, so says save another version of your code from the section. I still don't have the thing up. I was spending making homework for another class. No, for another class. Privacy. But have another version saved after this point. I'll ask for the different versions whenever I get it uploaded. So the one file is going to be you're not going to upload. You just have to create it yourself. The text file is going to be blank at the beginning, and you're going to be editing. And then I'm going to have version 0 of each. You'll upload them at the same time. I would just be making copies of both of them. I might not include this first one because all you did was copy and paste. Here, for this file, this would be like the first version. Which is just copying and pasting in the empty thing. So the first one you're going to do is just copy and pasting all this in and have it blank. You have to read again. Again, this class, I believe, is you come in, read the instructions, do it. If you have any questions, ask. And but the previous activities where it gave you all the code at the very beginning and you worked on it the entire time. We had multiple ones. So at this point, make sure it runs. My Visual Studio is closed. What mistakes? What does it have? So yeah, that's it. So you were supposed to create a new file called leaderboard.py. Did you do that? Yes. So you need to have a file named leaderboard.py, and make sure you get the run. In order for this to run, you have to make sure. Let me actually show this on this side. You have to make sure that you are in the correct folder. So, but you also have to make sure you're in the base folder. So I haven't told y'all this. You could actually up and up like one. That's because you added in the code. But you could up and up a subfolder that contains folders and run your code like this and never have to worry about opening folders. But modules won't work. So yeah, what was it? So make sure you have that folder. And when it runs, it shouldn't give an error. Shouldn't. I'm just making sure that I set y'all's Visual Studio up, so it should be working fine. Bueno. Oh yeah, yes. As it says, right. Yeah. This really needs to be done at the same time I'm teaching it too. We need a longer class. No. I meant like you. You well, no. I meant like when I'm working on this, you should be copying in and doing it. Like spot change. I told you to do that yesterday. Oh. Alright. Alright. Recording errors you incur. So just spot. You want to? Anyway, let's go over load leadership function. So reading data from a file using Python can be quite simple. Python, even though I don't like the language for it's not as hardware level as I like. I like getting really down into the hardware when I'm programming. But Python is very simple to use. You can do a lot of advanced stuff with it, such as reading from a file quite easily. We need Java or C++. Well, Java. Java would be the best to do Minecraft. So your program will need to open the file, load its data line by line into a list. So your program will add leaderboard data into a text file one line at a time using the following format. So your format of the file is going to be some name, a comma, and the score. Some name, comma, score, and a new line. This is how you're going to format your save file. The load leaderboard function is responsible for loading the leaderboard data into the leader names and leader score. So take a closer look at the load leaderboard function. Can you tell what Uppin does? So I kind of went over this yesterday. What Uppin does is it uppins the file. You need to create the file ahead of time. It won't create it. So you have to have a file already created. And it's going to open it in read-only mode. No, because we're passing file name into this function. So wherever you call load leaderboard is where you're going to pass it in. One thing I recommend doing is instead of using your catch a turtle, create a test.py that loads in leaderboard and test it from another file temporarily. Again, it's a module. That means you can load it into any other program you want. So the function open file name r takes a string. Actually, it takes two strings. The first string is the name of the file. Should be in the same folder. And R parameter represents read-only mode. In other words, the data in the file can only be read by the program and not modified. So when the open function is called, its contents are loaded into the variable. So the variable that we save it as is leaderboard underscore file. As a list of strings. Each string contains a single line from the file. So this leaderboard file is going to be a list. The first element in that list will be the line from the file, such as pat, 50. Therefore, each element in the leaderboard will contain a string that contains a player name and score separated by a comma. For example, if the leaderboard text file contains the following entries, then if you print out leaderboard file, it'll contain this if you print it. So leader names and leader scores are two lists that are initialized to an empty list you will be adding to their contents. So far, we've used lists to either choose a random value, like turtle color or size, or iterated using a for loop. I've already mentioned how to use indexing, like getting 0, 1, 2. To access the index of a list, you just use brackets, square brackets. A list is ordered, meaning that they have a certain order of elements stored in a variable. This contains 3 elements. Indexes are 0, 1, and 2. You can add to a list by calling append method, or you can remove from the list using remove. To access a single element in the list, use these square brackets and specify the element's position in the list. The position of an element in the list is referred to as the list index. Note that the first element is 0. We start with 0 in programming. So review the code below without running it. We have a list of animals here. And when we get animal list 2, so 0, 1, 2, this would be index 2, mouse. So it should print the mouse. So always think in programming, the index 2 is not the second one because we include 0. You can say 0th, first, second, but really we say index 2. We don't use second for that because that gets confusing. What if you wanted to print out monkey? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 would be the 4. Monkey. We could have also done length of animals list -1. That also prints out monkey. So the length of this list is 5. 5 minus 1 is 4, and that also gets you your list. Lists in Python start with an index of 0, not 1. This is the case for most programming languages. However, there are some languages or pseudocode that start the list with an index of 1, but is usually called out. College Board uses a list structure whose index values start with 1, which is really weird. I don't know why the AP exam for this starts with 1. For all list operations, if the list is less than 1 or greater than the list, an error message is produced. So in addition to accessing an element by index, you can also assign a value to an element in the list. This is the main difference between lists and tuples. We can rewrite. So let me add in a print statement first. So here's the original list. We can take index 2 and reassign it. So index 2 was mouse. We can reassign it to horse. So what this does is it changes the value of mouse at index 2 to horse. Oh yes, it's permanent until you change it again. I'm probably going to leave this as an exercise. Should be simple. Just copy and paste it into the document wherever I get it running. So run the code below and observe the result. Can you tell what caused the error? So again, there are 5 elements, and We're trying to access index equal 5. The last element has index 4. So the max index of this list would be 1 minus the size. So 5 is outside, is out of range. So before you add code to extract the player names from the leaderboard.txt, let's take a look at for loop header and load leaderboard function found in the leaderboard.py file. So what is this loop doing? For every line in the variable leaderboard file, we're going to be looping. So this line variable is going to get the first line. After it iterates once, it'll get the next line and the next line. So if this was your file, if you want, you can copy this into your text file to start out the test. So in your leaderboard.txt file that you create, blank, it should be blank at first. If you want to go ahead and copy this in temporarily, so that you have some scores already in there to test. So in order to complete the load leaderboard function, you need to add code for the for loop to do the following. You need to extract the player name, add it to the list of players, and then extract the player score and add it to the score. These steps below will guide you through how to program each of these tasks. Basically, it says how you create the while loop. You will use the to-do numbers found in the comments to guide you in where to place the code. So there are 3 variables initialized at the beginning. Leader name, leader score, and index were already added and will be utilized in the steps below. So search for the section labeled to do 1. You will be adding code to this section to the loop through each line of string found in the leaderboard. 1 character at a time, joining or concatenating. So we're going to be going 1 letter at a time. This is very common. The characters and storing them in a resulting list. So lists and strings are very similar. Actually, how a string in most programming languages is, a string is just a list of characters. So your characters are like A, B, C. So the string ABC is just a list containing A, B, and C. Similar to a list, you can iterate through a string 1 character at a time using a for loop or a while loop. You can also access each character in a string using the character's index. For example, if string S has the value Python, then S0 will give you return P. S1 will return Y, and so on. What's up? Did you create it? Did you create it? What? Where at? Where is it throwing an error at? Where at? $42. Alright. Well, I don't know how you changed it up. Like, we're at right here. We're at. Alright. And where's the error being thrown at? 33 right here at close. And what's it saying? Leader score under this variable doesn't exist? That's because it doesn't exist because this is not inside the function. You have to put spaces and have it correct. So make sure it's indented properly. You must have accidentally deleted some spaces or pressed enter or something. You must have accidentally moved it. Oh no, you typed while. You added that while loop. And when you added it like this. You need to have while loop under the for loop. So you need to move it over. That's probably because you didn't have the actual file opened or something, I don't know. But it's an error. Again, sometimes the errors aren't detected immediately until you add other things. Some errors are ignored if they're not real errors and adding and changing things to something. Oh, I know why. Because the for loop is never executed if this is blank. Right? So if this file you open is blank, this for loop is never executed because there is no lines of code in that file. So when you created lines in it, it was able to run down here and get to your error. And that's the reason why. So add the following code to your program, then watch the animation. So here's the while loop already done for you. All you have to do is copy and paste. So use a while loop to read the leaderboard. So this goes under to do. Whenever you add code to your program, pay attention to, here it says 2, your error. When you add code to your program, pay attention to indentation of the block statement to avoid errors. The while loop below is part of the for loop that preceded it. Therefore, the while loop should be indented to be under the for loop. It's also missing something. Do you know what's missing? No, there's one thing missing from this. Well, let's continue reading and see if it calls out. The not equal to operator is a relationship. So remember, exclamation mark means not. Is a relational operator that tests for inequality. It is equivalent to not equal to this not equal symbol in your math class. It compares two values and returns true if they're not equal and false if they are equal. Like most Boolean operators, the not equal operator is primarily used in conditional statements and while loop headers. So if you wanted to test if something was odd, you could do x mod 2 not equal to 0. If that's true, if it's not equal to 0, and it's odd. So, oh, and here it shows you what's missing from the video. Yes, the variable index and the variable leader name is not defined. Oh, is it? Okay. I didn't know. I didn't look back. So looping through a string. Let's assume line equals pat, comma 50. So first of all, leader name is going to be blank. Index equals 0. So line index 0 to go get your p. So p is not equal to comma. So we're going to enter the while loop. So it's going to take the leader name. It's going to add to it p. So blank plus p equals p. Then we're going to increment index by 1. And we're going to come back over here, get the first index of line, which is A. Is A equal to a comma? Nope. So we enter the while loop. So leader name is P, and we're adding A to it. So now leader name is PA. Increment index by 1. Now it's 2. So line 2, not equal to comma. So T is not equal to comma. That's true. We will enter the while loop. So PA plus T is Pat. Increment the while loop again. So index is now 3. So line bracket 3 is not equal to comma. So it's a comma. That is false. Comma is equal to comma. So we're going to print out leader name. So this is the animation showing you how you can extract the name from it. Basically what we're doing is we're going one letter at a time until we get to a comma. So we're going to start out with an empty a blank string. So this starts out blank, and we check, is this a comma? If not, we add it. We're at P. Then we get the next one. Is A a comma? No, so we add it to P, so now we're at PA. Then we go to the next one. Is T a comma? Nope. So we take our current variable as PA, and we're going to add a T to it. Then when we get to a comma, we stop. Also note that our index, this animation's wrong in one regard. Once we get the print statement, index should have been incremented to 4. We should now be pointing to the. No, never mind. Nope, because we didn't change that index yet. So right now, index is pointing to the comma. You'll need to be explaining each line of code here. Again, I'm sorry that I haven't made the submission document yet. It kind of gives you an explanation. You should use your own words, though. You can somewhat paraphrase if you want. So at the very end, the index is pointing to the comma, which causes the loop to end. So follow these steps to test your code so far. Use correct format when adding values. Note there are no spaces before or after the comma. You must hit enter at the end of each line. Yes. For example, the file can contain this. I recommend keeping this and just for testing purposes. The current code does not show you what the leader names being extracted are. Can you think of a simple line of code that could help you see the value? That's just print. So I recommend adding debugging statements. Again, you can keep debugging statements in up until the final submission. I want debugging statements out on the final submission though. Add the line of code right after while loop to view values in Python. Should this line be indented inside the loop or not? So you want this after the while loop, so it should be indented to be inside the for loop. It recommends you switching back to catch a turtle program and testing the game. Check the values printed in the Python terminal. Are they correct? If not, check your code again and fix. What? Oh yeah, I hate the highlight too. I wish there was a way to turn it off. Because I'm constantly highlighting stuff. So now you're going to go into To Do 2 and add that name you just extracted to the list of names. To do that, you just use the append method to add it to the end of the list. So the current index is now pointing to the comma. We want to continue moving on and extracting the number now. A line of text in the file ends with an invisible character that tells the system that the line has ended. This character is known as a new line character. You may not have been aware of this, but let's see if I can open up my advanced Sublime editor. So, and let me copy in that. And let's see if I can view white space. View line endings. No, I want to. There's a way for that I don't know how to do. That would be under view. It's not. Oh well. So at the end of every line, there's an invisible character. So what a text file is just an array of. So every text file is just an array of characters. How does it know that there's a new line? How does it know that I should print this on a different line? There are also invisible characters. So right here is an invisible character. And with this editor, I can search for something called backslash n, and look what it highlights. It highlights this invisible character. And come over here and press enter, and it finds these invisible characters. On Windows, it's technically /r/n, but just /n should work. But that's how we're going to be storing it. We're going to be storing it as unit style. Windows will handle it too. But there's an invisible character, and that character's is /n. So this symbol right here, backslash and a letter following it, should be treated as one character. So this is treated as one character. and it just means new line. So set index to point to the start of the score. So it's currently pointed at index, so we need to increment it by 1. And what should we check for? We should check if the current index is equal or not equal to new line. So we're going to continue looping until we get to the end of the line. So what this statement says is while this current character is not equal to the new line character, continue looping. And again, this is the symbol in computer science for new line. Insert a line of code. So add another print statement to test, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to extract. I think we're going to be storing the number as a string right now. Again, we can always, if we need to use it as an integer, we can always do that int conversion on it. But right now, we're going to be treating this as a string rather than a number 50. This would be in to do 2, to do 3, something like that. So add another print statement and test your code. So just like we did with the name, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to loop and we're going to keep adding until we get to the new line character. Insert a line of code to do 4, add it to it, and then test to make sure any errors. Make sure you don't have any errors. So what's going on? Is it not printing? Did you add any print statements? So it should be printing out. So if you added this print statement, if you added print leader name as leader name, it should be printing out Pat and so on if you have a text file like that. Here's the code word. I think that's where we'll stop today. What now?